Germany, from Spain, from everywhere else. Lovely to see you. And what we are going to do today, as you know, I'm sure, Luke, I'm leaving you to let everybody else. I've been letting everybody in now. Yep. We are going to have a little chat about the QRep. Now, I'm sure some of you are familiar with the QRep, and I'm sure some of you are maybe just beginning with it or haven't used it yet. And so this is kind of midway in between for people who have never used it and people who do use it to fill in a few gaps, demonstrate a couple of cases, show you what we're doing, answer some questions, basically an update. But I will let you know that there are 2 videos on the RadarOpus site, and Luke has posted a couple of links to these videos. So if you have never seen those videos or never used the QRep, then I would highly recommend that you look at them, because that will explain the concept, the basic concept, more in depth than what I'm doing today. As I said, today I'm moving on a little bit with some things and questions you might have and issues you might have, and how we are progressing and everything else. So the QRep is known as the repertory of mental qualities. I'm quite amazed to say that it's been around since about 2006 or something like that. Sorry, excuse me. And really, I have to say, I'm not the kind of person that should be writing repertories. It's very detail-oriented, very careful work, and very patient work. And basically, I'm more of a homeopathic. I see myself as a thinker, philosopher, but I needed this tool, and that's why I made it. I made it for myself because I just saw, I've got to have something like this in everyday practice. And it's been so useful for me, much more than I really ever imagined. I can say that I use it in nearly every case that I do, except I'll explain which cases I don't use it afterwards. But in most cases, I would say I use a QRep, and it has improved my results dramatically, probably more than anything else I've done in homeopathy in my personal practice. It's given me more accuracy and access to remedies I never used before and probably would never have used, as I say, on a more accurate basis. So I'm really happy that I did do it. It's probably the most practical thing I have offered as a tool for homeopathy. So I'm very pleased with it. It's a lot of work to do, but it's paid off. So first of all, thank you for Luke for hosting this and for being the energy behind this seminar. Luke, if you don't know, is main dealer and support in the UK for RadarOpus. He's been with them for many years. As you might have heard before, I've known Luke since he was a baby, because Luke is related to Obi-Wan Kenobi, which is Misha. And that's where he got the name, he told me, Luke Skywalker from. And Luke is also a teacher in the School of Homeopathy, England, and he has his own repertory and doing a lot of good things for homeopathy. I'd also like to mention my 2 partners in this repertory. Without them, I would not be able to do it. Those are Kelly Callahan and Raphael Noy, who helped me very much in putting the rubrics together and keeping the whole business in order and tidy. So, it's horrible things that I can't deal with, like remedy abbreviations. Luke, make a note to ask me about remedy abbreviations later.
I will, yes. Good point.
Yeah, that's an issue. So the QRep is kind of based on the Bonninghausen idea, the Bonninghausen concept of working. And I'm a great fan of that way of working because what Bonninghausen basically says is that we should use large general rubrics where you are sure that the best remedy is in the rubric. That's the basic idea. And that pertained at the time of Bonninghausen to rubrics like pain, burning, might aggravate, cancerous affections, desire for sweets, whatever. It would be about putting a few good big rubrics together. But because they were big, you were pretty certain that the best remedy was inside, so you wouldn't miss out on it. That's what kind of Bonninghausen did. And then he would leave the smaller rubrics, the characteristics, the keynotes, stranger and peculiars of those small particulars, he'd leave them for afterwards. So basically, what Bonninghausen said is, make the totality first and find all the remedies that can fit that totality, that have all the main characteristics, coldness and, pains in the abdomen and sadness, and then only home in which of those remedies has, is one suitable in particular for this case. And that is, so you're not working from the sharp end upwards, meaning you take some keynote and you go from the keynote to the totality. In a way, the total opposite to that Bonninghausen approach was Sherr. I don't know if you know who Sherr was, K-N-E-R-R, and he wrote a repertory, and that's one rubric, one remedy per rubric. So it will say, anxiety in the morning, on waking, when seeing a black and white cat, one remedy. And nobody uses that much because it's so difficult to find a rubric. Can you imagine if you were looking for that, would you look for cat or would you look for anxiety or morning? And then it's just one remedy. So Sherr was pinpointing it and Bonninghausen was generalizing it. And I think I prefer mostly to start with the generalization because then you know that even if you haven't hit the nail on the head, your remedy matches that totality, and it will help. It will do something. It will move the case forward because it has all the major characteristics. I'd rather have a remedy for a case that fits all the general major characteristics than have a keynote, one rubric pinpoint symptom. You notice here that I say the best remedy and not the right remedy. Those of you who have been with me in 7-hour webinars will understand that I don't believe there's such a thing as a right remedy. I don't believe there's such a thing as a simillimum. I know there isn't. Or maybe it's interesting because out of all the students in 7-hour webinars, which were a good few hundred, I asked if anybody had ever seen a case of a simillimum, and one homeopath had presented a case of a simillimum. Nobody else was able to present one. So I'm saying the best remedy in the rubric. The rubric can be right. We have to see what the definition of that is. And according to Yoda, the definition of the right rubric is if the rubric is with the best remedy in it. The right rubric is a rubric with the best remedy in it. Because it's better to have lots of remedies than miss the best remedy in the case. So you go for those big ones and then slowly home it down to a smaller one. Now, I'm not saying this is right in every case. Sometimes you're going to get a very sharp keynote or stranger and peculiar that's going to crack the whole case for you, and that's great. But I would say that happens in the minority of cases, and you can't rely on it every time. But now, what I did over here, using this Bonninghausen approach, which I just continued, is I moved it into the mind more. Because Bonninghausen did a few large rubrics of the mind, but he didn't cover all the issues. And he didn't cover a lot of issues that relate to where we are today. Let's say, low self-esteem, obsessive compulsive, stuff like that. So it's not that I invented anything new, but I filled the gaps, especially in mainly or totally in the mental emotional sphere. And that is why it's called the repertory of mental qualities, because quality also means a characteristic of a person. Are they guilty person? Are they homesick person? That's a quality of a person. But also, of course, I hope to make it a repertory of, I do everything I can to make it a repertory of exceedingly high quality. And, I check it very, very carefully. Everything is checked by at least 2 people, if not 3 or more people, multiple times. So I'm particular about quality. Anyway, but what is the magic? This is the magic. All the rubrics are naturally very big in the repertory of mental qualities. Just like, the rubric sadness or fear or anger. So when we look at these rubrics, birds and flying, 253, drug states 352, judgmental 335, and trap 268. And you say, okay, these are too big to work with. What can I do with it? Will it work for me? Will it help me? But look what happens. This is really the magic of it. When you put in 4 of these rubrics, and I deliberately chose some of the bigger ones that are in a case, I'm down to 57 remedies.
Jeremy,
now 57.
Jeremy, you're not sharing your screen yet.
What? No kidding. Now you tell me. Oh my God, Luke. That is awful. All my PowerPoints went to waste. I'm showing you my PowerPoint now very quickly from the beginning, okay? I can't believe that. Silly me.
Sorry, I thought you were ad-libbing. Sorry.
Okay, no worries. That's my fault, not yours. Here's the introduction. Here's Luke Skywalker. Here are Kelly and Rafi, okay, who helped me with the repertory. There is Bonninghausen. There is what Bonninghausen kind of teaches, that we use large general rubrics, which are sure to find the best remedy in the rubric. Wow, I'm so sorry I didn't share with you before. Only afterwards, characteristic, keynotes, SRPs, and particulars. Here is what Yoda says, okay? The right rubric is a rubric with the best remedy in it. Makes sense, doesn't it? If you got the right rubric, some small delusion, he's jumping over a building, but it doesn't have the right remedy in it because it just got 6 remedies. It's not going to be the best rubric or the right rubric to take, okay? Simple definition, but this is a mantra you need to hold in mind. When you choose a rubric, ask yourself always, with every rubric, how certain am I that the right best remedy is in here? And if you're not certain, it doesn't mean don't use it, but put it in another clipboard and set my clipboard for uncertain rubrics, okay? So the certain ones I put in fact, when I repertorize, I put the certain ones from the regular repertory in one clipboard. I put the QRep rubrics in another clipboard, and then I put the uncertain ones and the smaller ones in a different clipboard. And then I can play between them and see, what goes with what. I do the QRep together with the regular, the QRep with the stranger and peculiar. I alternate combinations of clipboards in order to look for the best remedy. And I'm scanning all the time, scanning the results. So here is what I just showed you, that I've taken 4 rubrics that are quite large rubrics, 250, 350 remedies, and put them together, but the result is only 57 remedies. Now, that might seem like a lot, but it's really not such a lot if you work in a particular way. And the way I work is first of all, before you repertorize, you have to gain an understanding, a synthesis of what needs to be cured in the case. So that has to be very clear, and that's my main teaching in homeopathic philosophy and technique, is to find a synthesis of what needs to be cured. And when I've got that synthesis and I've got 57 remedies, it's nothing to go through and say, could it be that, and then eventually I say, whoops, China, interesting. Whoops, tuberculinum, interesting, mandragora, and ignis. So that's how I work. Now, maybe not everybody is so familiar with the remedies, but when you do that, you will become familiar with the remedies, because you'll say, Gallium-met, well, I don't know Gallium-met, so I'm going to go and read it. And I do that, tens of times every day, all my life. I check it quickly, or I study it, in a more thorough way. And that's how I get to know the remedies. So for me to scan through 57 remedies is really a matter of less than a minute, I assure you. It's just like going on here, no, yes, interesting, no, maybe, can be, no, maybe. And then I put it, I make a group of remedies. Now, all you have to do then is add one regular rubric from the regular repertory, if it's a keynote, if it's a physical, a food desire, a smaller mental or something, and you'll have it down to 20 remedies or so. But the magic is that that the best remedy is inside here, most likely, because the rubrics in the mental qualities are 98% correct for the remedies that we know today. Of course, the remedies that we don't have, then we don't know yet, and they're not in there. But for the remedies that we have, it is very, very accurate. So that by doing this very simple thing, it's all about simplicity and making it easy. Instead of busting your heads and thinking, some fancy rubric or some fancy delusion or something like that, make it easy on yourself. If there's any bird or any flying in any way, in that case, you can take that rubric. If there's been any drugs, if it's hangover, if it's being zombied out, if it's smoking dope all the time, if it's being addicted to one thing or the other, you can use drug states. You don't have to be that specific. Any kind of critical, any kind of reproach of others, of self, of the dog, of whoever, you don't have to be specific. That judgmental will fit the case. Whereas choosing from the regular repertory is much more difficult. What will you take for trapped, for instance? Desire to escape, it doesn't cut it. It doesn't have all the remedies. It doesn't have all the issues. For instance, it won't have delusion, is encaged in wires or something like that, the small things. But when you take trap, it's in there. So now when you've got these 57 remedies, best as you can, it's in there. And even if nobody's proved the remedies yet, these will have a pretty good fit and will get that case moving for you. And that is the great thing about it. So it's not only about accuracy, it's also about making your life easier. Rather than starting digging around in the repertory and looking for small rubrics and stuff like that, you can do this in seconds. By the time I finish the case, I've got this group of remedies waiting for me, and I can fill in different clipboards with particulars or smaller stuff. Okay, very good. So I want to start, all of this, I'll say this again, I'm jumping over the stuff quickly because in the two videos that you'll find on the RadarOpus website, one that I made and one that Luke made, you will get a better introduction to how it came together, to different rubrics, and in fact to how we construct the rubrics, which is also very important to see and understand. So if you haven't seen those, I highly recommend that you do. Now we will do a short case, okay? So just to demonstrate the technique. Now, don't go on the chat now, maybe someone of you have seen this case or you want to, don't comment as it says over here. Thank you very much. Okie doke. So this is, can you see that screen? Can you see the case, Luke man?
Yeah, we can see it.
You can see it. Thank you.
Yeah.
A man suffering, 42 years old, suffering from frozen shoulder. He's wearing blue and white clothes. Always worried that something bad is around the corner. I focus on what is missing. I feel I've been running before I can walk. I also have doubt. I'm worried about wobbling. I need to stabilize. I trained as a therapist, very highly skilled, but always felt incomplete and wasn't sure if it was effective. And I got stuck on that. I put pressure on myself to be super effective, but I get stuck on where to apply things because of my doubt. My perfectionism drives me to look for a perfect cure. I get inspired, then I see the limitations, and then the process starts again. I discovered a great way to teach patients weight loss, and it worked really well, but not in everybody, not in all the patients, so I gave up. It wasn't perfect. Whenever I discover a new technique, if it's not perfect enough or it doesn't work on everyone, doubt creeps in. I could have made money from many of them, but I'm not sure which of them to do first. I'm stuck on which of them to do first. I can't decide what is best. I don't want to compromise. So with every project, it's inspiration, seeing the perfect solution, seeing the limits, seeing the flaws, and then discarding it. And back to my fallback position, I agonize what to do. I chop and change, always thinking of what others would say about my plans. He was adopted as a baby in the first few months, moved a lot during his whole childhood. At age 9, developed a headache, so they kept him back from school. Age 16, became impotent because of the doubt and depression, anxiety, not knowing what to do for a career. As a result, I have a very low self-opinion of myself, depressed and empty inside. He has fears of natural disasters, tsunamis, earthquakes, dinosaurs, and Russians, of course. Fear of disease, especially cancer, and of knives and injections. He has a dream of a black cloud looming. He was swept into it. It was terrifying. He had a dream of a pub with no beer. Everybody is having fun, but they are not drinking. Doesn't make sense. Dream of a teacher telling his purpose in life, which was to live and be crushed. He had a sinking sensation. His world collapsed with this dream, which was that his purpose in life was to be crushed. My girlfriend says she wants me to see me manifest my potential. As a child, I wanted to be a great inventor. He has a big aggravation from alcohol. Any little bit knocks him sideways. Good. Nice, clear case. I'm not going to dwell on it too much, but what I want to show you is how I look at it and analyze it using what I call the verb of the case, the movement in the case, just looking at the common denominator of a movement to make a synthesis. And movement is always composed of sensation and function. I feel cold, therefore I tremble. I feel pursued, therefore I run. I feel tall, therefore I bend over. Something like that. Those of you who have done Dynamis know it for sure. And those of you who have done 7R also are familiar. So now, look, I've marked the verb in yellow over here. So I'm ignoring all the chit-chat. I'm ignoring all the emotional wow and all that, and I'm just looking at the verb information. I feel I've been running before I can walk, with doubt, wobbling. So you see, these are motion, running, wobbling, doubt, perfectionism. That in itself is a noun, perfectionism, but it drives me as a verb to look for perfect, driven to look for perfect. Okay, doubt, 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 doubt. I'm not sure which of them to do first. I'm stuck. That's a movement, right? Or a non-movement, which is a movement. On which of them to do first. Can't decide what is best. Don't want to compromise. That's the same perfection. Perfection, can't move forward if it's not perfect, stuck behind. So with every project, it's inspiration. That's the initial spark, seeing the solution, now seeing the limits, seeing the flaws, discarding it, and back to my fallback position, sensation and function. What is he sensing? Inspiration, then the limits, and what must he do? He's got to fall back. I agonize what to do, chop and change. That's emotion, chop and change. Fine, okay. Kept him back in school. Oh, same thing, fall back, kept him back. Became impotent, fall back because of the doubt and depression, not knowing what to do as a career. Okay. Fear of which things? Dinosaurs, Russians, cancer. Those are big things. Fear of big, threatening things. Okay. And live and be crushed in his dream, and it knocks him sideways. That is a short analysis of the case. Without over-psychologizing, I now have an idea of the kind of motion in this case. This is what I said to you. We need to know what needs to be cured before we approach the repertory. Never go into the repertory before you've done to the best of your ability, understood what needs to be cured. That is key. Otherwise, you'll be like a person in a dark forest at night without a torch, because the repertory is like that. So now here's my synthesis that I built from all that. He's stable only if he has a perfect base to stand on. If he moves forward to the next unstable base, or if the next step seems too big, he wobbles and must fall back to a stable base. To me, that summarizes the case. There's nothing else to say. All the rest of it is icing on the cake, but it's not the main motion. He needs stability. If he doesn't, what happens? It knocks him sideways, or he wobbles, or he has doubt, right? So when he starts on his stable base, then he's okay. But if he steps forward and that step takes him to a place that is unstable because it's not perfect, or it's too big like a dinosaur, or let's take that jump at 16, you know, when you just have to go to that next step, having a relationship, going to university, all that kind of thing. It's too big, too scary, and he goes back to that place where he feels safe and stable. So that's my synthesis. And now that I have the synthesis, I'm confident to go into the repertory. And I want to make my life easy. So here's the synthesis, you know, unstable and can't face the big things, unstable based on his feet. Now I go to the repertory. Okay, here's the repertory. Fear something will happen. He said, I'm always scared something will happen. Doubtful. Conscientious about trifles that took as perfectionism. You could take fastidious and combine the two together. That's what I would do. And fear of disease, like fear of cancer. Now I'm looking through the eyes of my synthesis. There's my synthesis. Stable only for perfect base to stand on. Moving forward too much, he wobbles. Okay, could it be arsenicum, not really calc? Maybe a little bit like a podium. Yeah, kind of, maybe Nux, Phos, sepia, sulfur, ignatia, digitalis don't have that. Kali carb, Kali sulf don't have that. Fattaq, ruta don't have that. So maybe a bit of calc, maybe a bit of arsenicum, could be. And in the old days, before there were more, you know, let's say in Ken's days, that's what you'd use. That's what you do, or you'd give calc arsenicum. But because we have new provings today, you can get sharper than that. And one of the reasons for the QRep is because there are so many remedies that don't appear in the new repertory, that I want to be able to use them. So the QRep is very, very up to date. It's the most up-to-date repertory in existence, I'm pretty surely can say, because it's got all the latest remedies and we're updating all the time. So now I'm going to do the same thing, but on the QRep, and it's much easier. Notice the number of rubrics in each of these remedies. You see 200, mainly 200 plus. Failure, we all saw that I'll make it a bit bigger, sorry. Failure is a big issue with him. He's always failing, right? He falls back, he fails. Perfectionist, we know. Fear, disease, you know. Knives and points, I think he said he has a fear of knives and points. Now, you see, the thing about the QRep, even if it's one small little mention, it warrants to go in there. That's the nature of it, of the big rubrics. In a different case, I would not take fear of knives here because it's such a small rubric, 7 remedies. But here, I can allow myself to take it with confidence because if there's even a smidgen of a knife, I'm taking it. Low self-esteem and opinion of others. All these things he said. Now, you see, I'm down to over here about 15 remedies, 17 remedies or something like that, which is great because I can just work with them perfectly. Now, I have my synthesis in mind. That's my synthesis. Put it in front of your eyes. And now look, arsenicum maybe, calc maybe, lycopodium maybe, nux no, phos no, sepia no. Wait, where is it? There's a fuller one, sorry. Yeah, same repertory, really. A few more remedies showing it there. So I've got like 20, maybe 25. Doesn't matter. Silica, maybe. Sulfur, no. It's not got that synthesis in it. Now, if you don't know and you're new to homeopathy, read sulfur 20 times and you'll know. That's how you learn. Nux, no way. Platina, I don't think so. Lacaninum, no. Lycopodium, maybe. Calc, maybe. Arsenicum, maybe calc, arsenicum. Not bad, not great. Aurum, no. Mercury, no. Do they wobble? Are they perfectionists? Do they have that verb of the case? No. Not more, no. Scandium metallicum, yes. Bang. How do I know? Well, we proved it in the dynamic school. But even if we hadn't proved it in the dynamic school, I hoped I would have looked at it enough time to know that this fits bang and immediately into that synthesis like a glove in a hand. So it is perfect for me. And immediately, even if I join another couple of rubrics from the conventional repertory, I see scandium is still coming out, which is really nice. So you see these other remedies over here, like baritacarb, calcarb, etc., they would be okay, even if somebody had not proved scandium met. You could fall back on those and be good with those and move the case forward. That's perfectly acceptable, but you'll probably get a better result with a more accurate remedy, scandium met in this case. So over here, scandium met, if you don't know it, is the remedy number 21, the third remedy in the fourth row, often relating to profession, as you know, that row. What will I do in life? It doesn't have to be, but But the point about this is that it's that like, starting at the beginning, moving forward to that baby calc step, and then that scandium step at the age of 21, when you have to go into the big wide world and be responsible for yourself. And instead of that, you can't do it because your base isn't strong enough and you fall back to being a calc baby again. And why wasn't his base strong enough? We can now psychologize because he was adopted at a young age. So he doesn't have those roots of his parents. And that means that, he just didn't develop the strong root and the strong base to stand on, and he's wobbly on the feet. Now, the interesting thing here is to see that the next remedy along the line, the next element is titanium. Titanium, as you know, is Titus titanium, the big giant, the giant gods, the very strong metal. So it's going from this baby U step into this titanium step, which is like a big step to go. It's going from, that wobbly base of uncertainty into something very big and strong. Like when we want to say something huge and strong, we say Titanic, like the boat, right? So it's a big step, and it's that step that scandium can't make, the step from a small base to a much stronger and bigger position. Dinosaur, Russian, go to university. Here are a few things from the proving. This was a proving done by Camilla, my wife, in Scandinavia. That's why she chose scandium. And I hesitate, and all is lost. This is from the proving. I hesitated, not adapting fast enough. This is typical, that doubt. I became conscious of my mood, completely empty, lonely, sad, and so on. Remember, he said empty. That is a big thing in scandium. They empty inside, and that's why they don't have that inner strength. All joy is gone. I feel nobody cares, nothing matters, lonely, empty, and straight. Thinking about all the times I've failed in the past. I don't want my son to make the same mistakes I did, live his life through other people. Strong anxiety looking back over my life. This is what happens to scandiums when they grow old. You know, in a young age, they're always missing the opportunities. In an old age, they're regretting all the opportunities they missed because the step was too big to take at the time. So they stayed small. Think about all the times being shy held me back from giving 100% in all the jobs I've done. My feeling of how I've failed as a person in everything in my life from the age of puberty, how I haven't participated fully in anything, self-deprecation, thinking how badly I've done at every juncture. And that's typical, the junctures at school, moving from school to university, from kindergarten to school, while nursing, teaching, etc. I was reflecting on my life, how I'd missed opportunities, waiting years. What is my purpose, like in the dream, right? I haven't created anything. I blew it. I didn't manage to do anything today. And typical is it's very affected by alcohol, very easily drunk and wobbly, and it's a great remedy for hangovers. So that's a little touch of scandium. And, you know, to show you the case and how I worked it from the QRep. You would not have got that remedy from the conventional repertory unless you knew it. Scandium 1M, 3 months later, very good, much clearer relationship, much better. I'm more honest, talk to people more freely. My doubts much diminished, less irresolute, ways of clarity, new dreams of dancing and flowing. That's good. Stability, being with celebrities, that's good, is big, and I have no fear. Moving forward in life, perfect. There the verb is solved. And that's what we want. Shoulder is improving, less concerned about it, and he carried on doing well. A few indications of scandium, always doubting, hesitating, can't make the next big step. Big, small, scared to be big, scared to make the first move, new job, scared to graduate to the next stage, hesitating like an ant versus a dinosaur. Scandium can't move to the next element, titanium, vacillating, wobbling. So desired to play with younger children, moving from primary school to secondary school. That's a juncture. It's always at those junctures. Ahead in his age, reading 2 books that are too old for him, but then regressing and reading them when older. That's a fallback. And then tidy, clean, fastidious. Indecision, should I stay with mom or dad? That's kind of no roots, mom and dad separating. And you notice in the periodic table, it's under magnesium too, the orphan. Biggest in the last school, now I'm the smallest. So it's like the big kid in this school moves to the next school, and now he's a small kid and, you know, in a big school, and it's difficult to deal with. Dinosaurs, Cossacks, alcohol, wants to be with younger people, so he feels stable, indecision, seesaw, empty inside, etc., etc. That is it, okay. My purpose is not really to teach you scandium, but to show you briefly how I work. And it's quick and easy and simple. And anybody who's seen me work in class and do cases, they see the same thing. I try not to overcomplicate things. I try not to go into huge, deep psychological analyses and dig deep into the case. Everything floats up to the top. And if you just take what floats to the top, and you've got a simple method to repertorize it, but you need to perceive the thread that is running through the case, that is a synthesis. That is the big art. That's what you have to learn in homeopathy. The rest of it is child's play. The big thing is to learn how to synthesize a case. And let me tell you, it's not that difficult either. If you just have a bit of right instruction, you can actually do that yourself. So there you go. And now let's go back to my delightful PowerPoint. Where was I? Case, yes. And so to depict, here's a picture of scandium, right? See, too small, wobbly on the feet, and can't stand up for self, trying to be like Big Mama. There's Big Mama, okay? She's stability, but she's big. Good. Okay. And you can get that proving from the website. You know, we have all our provings on the website. There's scandium number 21. Dynamis.education. Very good. Now, this is something that a lot of people wonder about, and I've never actually publicly explained it. So I'm taking the opportunity to publicly explain it. I was going to talk about it in seminar, but I didn't have the time yet. So you see, this is a primary rubric, like knives and points. Not the primary. This is a rubric, knives and points, right? Mental quality. That means anything that has a point or a knife in it, a dream, a fear, a delusion, a desire to kill, anything with a knife, that goes in here. And that's got a lot of remedies, much more than the 7 or 10 remedies you'll find in fear of knives, delusion knives, fear of points, and all that kind of stuff. So, all right. But there's a primary rubric over here. And you see, this only has like how much? 15 or so remedies. Now, if you observe closely, all the remedies are the same remedies that are in the 3rd and 4th degree. I have 3 or 4 degrees in the repertory of mental qualities. And let me explain to you something about those degrees. It's not the same as the conventional repertory. In the conventional repertory, for instance, if you read the introduction to Frederick's synthesis, he explains that it's based on frequency. How many provers, how many clinical cases, and provers. So it's based on the frequency of that symptom to which degree you'll give it, which is fine. That's one method. That's actually the method that Kent used in his repertory. But I'm using another way to find degrees. I'm using quality, meaning I don't care if it only appeared once in one prover, but if it was really strong and if it was really a main issue and it really matched the whole thinking of the case, then it will have a 4. So if, or 3. So if, for instance, you see here, Spigelia. Now, in Spigelia, it's not that there's millions of provings and of cases that have Spigelia with a knife, but it's very highly characteristic. It has the quality of it, which means that, you know how Spigelia has sharp pains and darting pains and pains as if they stuck a knife in his eye and stuff like that. That makes it, a 3 or a 4 degree. Whereas 1 is only experimental, like we're not sure about it, but we don't want to leave it out because this repertory is meant to be all-inclusive. And 2 is, we know it's for sure, but it's not like standing out big time. But 3 and 4 are like, this really represents the idea of this remedy. It's a main feature in this remedy. And therefore, what we do in the primary rubric is we take out all those 3s and 4s and stand them alone. And they're a relatively new remedy like positronium from Misha is, but it has that knife thing in it because it appeared to be a strong thing. And that is only something you can get from closely studying the remedy, which is what we do. Okay. Of course, alumina and, platina have that. And, mercury has that. And of course, androtonus has that. But why do I do that? Why did I make that primary remedies? And that is to use in a different way. And this is Bonninghausen, the Bonninghausen method versus fattaq. Now, I told you about NER before. And no, it's all these one remedy rubrics. So, it's like fear in the night on stepping on a hedgehog and one remedy. But fattaq is one step before that. His repertory is very small rubrics too, but it's not one remedy. It's like 6, 7, 9, 12, 15 but it's very focused. Like what fattaq is saying, I'm taking the main idea, the main remedies for this thing. So sometimes it's not suitable to use huge rubrics. Sometimes you want to go to that smaller rubric because this issue is so important, so essential to the case that you want to have it in there. And I'll tell you where it comes from mainly. If you look at fattaq at the introduction to a remedy at the generals, you'll see it's in black type and small type and italics or something like that. And this is the black type stuff, the stuff in bold. That thing in fattaq is very important. Not all the repertory companies include it in the font size, but it has to be. I use it all the time because I want to see the main affinities. So Bonninghausen, the big generals, versus fattaq, the more small things. So if we look at fattaq's repertory, which I also like very much, it's a totally different idea. It works in a different way. So let's look at a few of his rubrics. Activity fruitless, 9. Agoraphobia, 7. Alternating effects, metastasis, things that move from one place to another, 31. Air castles, 5. So you see things that affect the flexures, 16. So these are very focused rubrics, and they're good to know because sometimes when the rubrics are too big, there are too many remedies, you can't find yourself, you don't know where to go looking over here, and you say, okay, I'm forgetting this big Bonninghausen thing, and I'm going to the smaller, sharper rubrics. This is what I wanted to achieve in putting both Bonninghausen and fattaq in the same repertory. So we can use both of them and get creative with that. So let me give you an example. Here's a case of a woman 26 years old who has severe headaches, worse for reading or worse for using the eyes. And they're often on the forehead or behind the eyes, and she needs to close the eyes after using them, and reading or anything like that with the pain. So it's obviously the eyes are related here to the headaches, and any eye exertion makes it worse. The eyes are also discharged and sticky closed in the morning. She has aggravation from milk. Generally, she feels very bad about herself. She has a poor self-image. She doesn't want to be seen by others. She has fears of dreams of knives. And she says that she does not like to be controlled by a husband or at work. And sometimes I could just stab him. Okay, nice, typical symptom. We all have it. So, but I'm presenting, a very short synopsis of the case. I'm not going in deep here. But we know that we need the following. We need this to be a headache eye remedy. This is a concomitant. Now, concomitant is exactly that kind of thing like the fattaq idea. Concomitants are great to show a relationship between two things that are somewhat different. So eyes and head. Okay, they are close, but if this is not an eye-head remedy, it will not work. It won't be the best remedy for the case. They have to be intrinsically connected. Worse from reading, headache from the eyes, closes the eyes with the pain, sticky eyes, etc. That's the one thing it needs. So always watch out in concomitants in the regular repertories, and look for something with or accompanied by or together with or at the same time as. And then we have some emotional stuff, the poor self-image and double theme of knives over here, and, not liking to be controlled, but something to do with the knife because it's in the dream and the stab. Very good. Now, when I go to a conventional repertory, I took eyes agglutinated, that means sticky, stuck together, head pain after reading, head pain after eye exertion, eyes closed generally, and food and drink milk aggravates. Now you see, if you were stuck in a corner, you would take this one, this rubric of 58 remedies, and go remedy by remedy until you find it. That would be the trick if you're in the corner. okay? Because you've got to have that concomitant of those two things. But I'm looking here, you know, calc, maybe not more. Maybe not. Sepia, silica, sulfur, no, I don't think so. Silica, maybe he's stabbing a husband. Belladonna doesn't seem like a carbo-veg. No, chamomilla, no, calicum, no, maybe Staphysagra, that's a good eye head remedy. Caustic amruta would definitely be one to consider. Big eye remedy, big eye head concomitant. Yeah, that's what we've got. Now let's do it with the Q repertory. Now what I'm showing you is how I say, okay, there's a main thing in this case, two main things, and let's focus on them rather than going broader. One is the poor self-image, and the other is knives. And these are very important. They are so central to her that I'm going to give it a shot with the smaller primary rubrics and see what comes out. Okay, let's give it a shot. So I'm using primary knives and primary low self-esteem. What do I get? Platina, lacphalinum, mercury, positronium. From here, it's a short step because I take the rubrics I did before, agglutinated, headache, eyes closed, etc. And whoops, I see lacphalinum coming through everything. Again, a remedy I didn't expect, but that's the nature of working with the QRep. You will find remedies you didn't think of and wouldn't find otherwise. It's got all the head, eyes remedies, and it goes through those primaries because it's more pinpointed than the method that I usually use, the QRep, the large rubrics. So there you go, you know, and you can see that, I think you'll see it over here. Whoops, sorry, I lost it out. Yeah, that lacphalinum does come out. What did I do differently here? Where is it? There it is, lacphalinum. It comes out over there. Okay, so, you know, even if I took, you know, the milk aggravate and put that in, that's what I wanted to show, yeah. No, it doesn't come out with the milk aggravate. Sorry, it doesn't come out, but it should. Because in the repertory, in the materia medica, lacphalinum does have, as you'd expect from a lac, milk aggravates and desire for milk. So it's simply missing, but we would have missed it because in the original repertory, it was down the line, out of sight. You might not have reached it. So this is where this helps a lot. And here's something of lacphalinum. Acute pain over the left eye and temple, in the pain in the head from reading, needs to shut the eyes on looking fixedly, reading, writing, darting pain in the eyes, when reading letters run together, aching behind the eyes, confused sight, fatigue, depressions, low self-esteem, feeling of not being respected, like she said, and treated contemptuously. She doesn't like to be controlled, great fear of knives. And then her headaches were much better, 80% better, also the eye problems. So there it takes us to lacphalinum. And the point is that, you know, went sharper with this case. We gave it a shot. Sometimes it will work, sometimes not, but it's very nice when it does work. So that is lacphalinum. And the reason it's in black type is because eyes are a main thing, even though in a conventional repertory it would not be. It would be small type. It is because there's only one prover, so it doesn't count. But I'm not working with frequency. I'm working with quality. It's a different system. And for my repertory, I prefer it. Different strokes for different repertories, you see. Now, let's just talk about the QRep a bit. And, you know, there are a lot more rubrics inside than we've been working. We try about 3 a year. It's a lot of work, you know, months, because we always trying to go back to provings or old rubrics also to update. But you know, it does take us a long time to put one rubric together. You know, 3-4 months. For instance, the last rubric I've worked on for 6 months, and that's just because, you know, I'm waiting for the repertories to update too. I needed a complete 2020, and I'm waiting for the new synthesis, which I'm happy to say will be out on the 1st of November. So, look, let's just discuss these a little bit. Ambition is much more comprehensive than the ambition in the conventional. Animals encompasses everything to do with animals. Fear animals, love animals, sympathetic animals, delusion is animals. Never mind what it is, mice, horses, whatever, it's got it. Big ego is really a great rubric because it's not always haughty. It's not always selfish. It's not always great person. It's not always delusion. He's Napoleon. It's all of that together. And it's really, that's one of the ones I find very useful because it just doesn't cut it with the conventional repertories. So I like it. Birds on flying is also very nice because, you sometimes get those dreams of flying. It's not, the rubric is too small. It won't be there. Or even if you think it's a bird remedy, it's going to have all the birds inside there, which you won't get. So maybe somebody has dreams of flying and he needs a falcon, but it's not in the rubric or something like that, Useful rubric. Carers and helpers major. All your homeopaths, all your therapy, they have carers and helpers without thinking. Clairvoyance is bigger than, the usual repertory. Closed people is a new one. To be honest, I don't even have it on my repertory at my computer. So you're lucky to have it. This one we just made last year, reserved, introverted, taciturn, all those kind of stuff together. Control is generally refers to either controlling or being controlled. Dark is anything to do with dark. Fear of dark, loves the dark, walks in the dark, thinks of the dark, dreams of the dark. Divided, very useful. Any division, any doubling is a useful rubric. Drugs, I mentioned before. Duty is also only 2 years old. Very useful because the small rubrics do not cut it. They're not big enough. They don't contain it all. This is a new one I haven't even had the pleasure to use yet because we just made it last year and I don't have it. So you have more than I have. And this is dyslexia and dyspraxia. So I'm looking forward to that. These are one of the harder kinds of rubrics to put together because you need, it's not that you can go to a rubric called dyslexia. There isn't such a thing. There's loads of rubrics that you have to check each one of them. And materia medica, of course, searches. Embarrassment, bigger, failure, use that 10 times a week. Fear of disease also. In Corona, you can use it. Female hormones, I'll explain to you in a moment, use that all the time. Guilt, much bigger than anxiety of conscience. High and low. Look, high and low, a lot of people say, is that high and low moods? No, that means small, high building, small building, big hole in the ground, dreams of falling, going from up, down, that kind of high and low, not high and low moods. Home and house is about exactly what it says. Insects, any cockroach you find, you put it in there. Judgmental, use that often. Every case, it's a bit critical, self-reproach, others reproach, all that kind of thing. Light is like being flooded with too much light, don't like light, hate like, want light, all that kind of stuff. And here, light and dark is only if there's kind of both together with a contrast between them, okay? So like you see a case that has, I love light and I hate dark, vice versa, I like the contrast, all that kind of thing. Money, too poor, too rich, worries about it, doesn't have it, dreams about it, all that kind of stuff. Music, same thing. OCD, really useful because, fixed ideas and that kind of stuff in the repertory, it just won't cut it, doesn't do the job. Needs a compilation. It's a careful compilation. We don't do anything automatically. We check every remedy. We see why, who put it there, why is it there, what does it look like in the materia medica and the proven before we add it. This is, we are OCD about the OCD rubric. Opinion of others, excellent rubric, love it because you have it so many times and it's just not there well enough in the conventional. Perfectionist, it's much bigger and more comprehensive than fastidious or anxiety, conscious trifles or that. Snakes includes all the snake remedies, by the way, so you won't miss out anything. This is a new one that I haven't used yet because it's so new: spatial disorientation, getting lost, not finding your place, confused left and right, all that kind of thinking you're in the wrong place, all that kind of thing should be useful. Spiders, obvious, any spider, including spider remedies. Trapped is use it all the time. Trapped, really useful. I'm trapped in my job, I'm trapped at home, I'm trapped with my kids, whatever. Type A means those people who just workaholics. That's what it means, workaholics. People who just can't stop going, industrious, creating, doing, running, busy all the time. And victim is like amazing, because I use victim every day because there's nothing for it in the conventional, but it's really such a useful rubric. Now, I want to remind you that every rubric has a definition, and you should read the definition so you know what we meant when we put it together. Before we put together a rubric, we put together the definition. So it's extremely clear what we're talking about. Here it says high and low, suitable for any axis, any patient where the vertical axis is the theme of the case. Mental, emotional issues. This is not about physical issues, okay? This is not about actually falling down, no. But mental, emotional only, related to heights, falling, climbing, jumping, cliffs, abyss, ascending, descending, etc. Okay? They might be in dreams, fear, delusion, sensation, aggravations, but not high and low emotions such as mood swings. So read those definitions, be clear about them. Here is female hormones, but that is only mental or physical. It shouldn't be and physical. This should only be mental. We have to fix that over here. I thought it was fixed. Only mental issues relating to female hormones, meaning not abdominal pains premenstrually, but premenstrual irritability or feeling great in pregnancy, then yes. Okay, here's a definition of dyslexia, dyspraxia, dysphagia, dyscalculia, and they all in that. So, and we explain that. So read those. They're in every repertory next to the rubric. What are we doing nowadays? What are we up to? I have just finished working on identity. I'll show you. Rafi finished it much before me, but I was waiting to get the latest information, and that was a long wait. You see here it is. No, that's not it. There it is. So there I put it together, after going through all the relevant rubrics in all the different repertories, including fattaq and Sherr and everybody else, and then searching the materia medicas and then new provings, data that I've collected over the time. And then I send Rafi a list like that. And, sometimes I explain what I think, like I don't trust the 4 in anacardium. I don't think it's right. Just my personal experience. And this appeared, but, basilinum comes up if you search for identity, but it's probably just says we could not establish the identity of the remedy or something unrelated. And that's, I have to say that while there are similar repertories like that, like this in existence, most of them, and I can prove this to you in 30 to 40% of the stuff inside is rubbish because it's just a repertory search. You see, so it's just a repertory search or materia medica search, and you just throw any word that comes up in. So, for instance, in dark, you're going to get dark urine as well, which is not related, and that's, I'd say, easily 30%. So I have gone through each one of these remedies. I've combed that, looked, read the materia medica, read the proving, and decided if it's a 0, it's a 1, or their calc phos is a 3 in issues of identity. Also, we have another innovative thing is families. So, for instance, the fungi family, I give 3 for issues of identity. Actually, maybe I should give it 4. And the drugs, I give also 3 because this is a big thing for all fungi remedies. They have a problem with identity because fungi in themselves, they don't have a central identity. They don't know who they are because they're not. They're everything. They're everywhere. Same with drugs, remedies like anilinum, where the all the sensors merge with the environment. So, these are radioactive remedies. I only gave it 2, but all of them should be considered in identity. And all the alumina salts, alumina iodatum, alumina arsenicum, whatever also. So now I send this to Rafi. He has his list. Then we compare the list, and sometimes we compare it with a third person as well. And then we argue about who was right on which rubric and try and bring points for this and points for that. If he was right, I owe him £1, and if I was right, he owes me £1. Meanwhile, I owe him about £2,000 for all of that. So we're working on identity. I want to do time. We've already collected from a lot of provings, too slow, too fast, all that. Aliens and stars, we've already collected from newer provings, big and small, the contrast, and criminal. So those are the things. Of course, we are working on new remedies as they come up, and Kelly often does those, but we could use volunteers to help with those. So if you want to, just let us know. And, then the new provings coming up every day, and we have to go through them and add them to the appropriate rubrics. For instance, I'm just editing a new proving like Populus Canadense or something like that, then I'm adding the remedies to that, and there are all kinds of things. Now, we're very open to suggestions. We're very open to corrections. Any mistakes, any omissions, any rubrics that make sense to have there because they're not in the conventional repertories at all, or they're too small, or, they need to be there. We'd love to hear from you. And that is all now. Before I finish, and we'll have time for a few questions. We'll have time for a few questions now, and I'll finish later. So, Mr. Lukeman, is there anything that you would like to ask?
Wow, that was excellent, Jeremy. Thank you. I think you answered like most of the questions that I had prepared for you already.
I think I did. I did answer most of the questions you posed. So
there was one question about the issue of remedy abbreviations when you're looking, because you look at complete repertory and synthesis, and the two, I believe Rafi works more with synthesis side, and then you have to create 2 different versions depending on which abbreviations you use. Is that right?
Okay. Yes. Well, let me say first that, we try to cater for all the repertories, but this is a big problem in homeopathy. And in my 7R webinars, which one of the R means RADS, right? It's restoring roots, remedies, reflections, rules, and RADS. And one of the ramps that I'm supposed to be ranting about is the difference of abbreviations between the synthesis and the complete, the 2 main repertories. And I'm going to say it now briefly, and I'll talk about it more when in another seminar one day. I do not think that should be allowed. I do think it's extremely wrong that the complete and the synthesis have different abbreviations. I've tried to change it. I've talked to both sides, but they have different ways of working and thinking. But the problem is, if one day there'll be a unified program that uses both the complete and the synthesis, then you're not going to find, if one remedy is listed lac dromedale, lac dr, and the other one is just lac d, it won't go through because it's different, abbreviations. Or for instance, if you take, metor, which is called metor in the complete, and something else, what's it called? I forgot, alliance in the synthesis. Forgot what his name is. Something
Lux foramina. Lux foraminus nigris. Is that
so it's not Lux foramina, no, it's alliances. It's a Mexican meteor. So, but anyway, it's a totally different name. Now, the QRep, it makes a lot more. Which one?
Fax Celestis Celende.
Fax Celestis, yeah, that's the one, exactly. Not allowed, I'm against it. It also makes a division in the energy of homeopathy. That is a problem with it. Now, and for the QRep, it's a huge headache for us because Paul Kelly, mainly, and Rafi too, they have to make different abbreviations for the synthesis and for the complete. And it's always problematic. It really adds a lot of extra work for us. But that is not the main reason. It's an energetic division. And let me tell you what I think should be, what it needs to be. In my opinion, it's not up to neither the complete people nor synthesis people to decide on abbreviation of remedies. It should be up to a committee, an international committee with people who know about these things, who know zoology, botany, Latin, the history of homeopathy, etc., etc. And this committee should decide what remedies abbreviation is. It shouldn't be up to any commercial interest. That's why it would. That's how it would happen in the scientific world. You know, nobody's going to go and name an element by themselves just because they fancy it. It will be an international committee that names it. So I'm looking forward to that happening one day. That was just one of the questions. Okay. What's there another question, Luke? I don't remember.
A really interesting question. Somebody said, generally, how many of the qualities do you use in a clipboard? Is it, you've shown 3 or 4 now, but
I go for something between 2 and 6 is my normal average, you know. And, you know, that will be the number of those general ideas in a case. Sometimes it'll be more, but it doesn't vary hugely, you know, between 2, 3 and 6, 7. That's my average in a case. And, you know, if I'm using 6 or 7, it'll be down to 20 remedies. But I do, the one thing is you have to make sure that the rubric is right for the case, you know. But it's much looser and more relaxed in the QRep than in the conventional repertory. You can afford a bit of variation here. So that is it. Now I'd like to say, if we've got, I don't know if we've got, Kelly is our database woman, and she has made a wonderful database. I don't know, Kelly, if you could do the 1-minute tour of the database, because before that, Rafi and myself, who are messy males, you know, we got ourselves in a total tangle, which Kelly sorted out wonderfully. So, Kelly, do you want to give 1 moment showing how we work, the back end works? Let me unmute you and make her a co-host.
Yeah, I've just made her a co-host.
Okay. So Kelly, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, sure. Let me share my screen. So, well, I'll show the back end. Yeah, so basically, I started volunteering, reading provings when I was a Dynamis student, and then got involved in doing one of the updates and quickly saw that we had way too much information to be wrangled in Word documents. As Jeremy said, we have to manage the abbreviations for complete and manage the abbreviations for synthesis, which actually runs into the hundreds. It's not like it's just a dozen. So it would be simpler if it was just a dozen, because then we could just keep one list and memorize the ones that are different, but it's not. And as we wanted to add more and more rubrics, we just have more and more information, because one remedy, of course, shows up in multiple rubrics at a time. And I am not a coder. I am not anything like that. Luckily, there are tools that we could use. So this is a database tool we use called NAC. This is the back end. So Rafi and Jeremy actually don't interface with this. This is what I use. But for example, we have a whole set of records for complete. And so it has all the abbreviations, it has the grades, it has the mental qualities it shows up in. And then it has a bunch of technical things about how to export the list. But, you know, we maintain a list for complete and for synthesis, the date that it was added to the database. Then we also have a list of all the remedies that we use, and here's where I can compare the abbreviations. And then we have rubrics in progress, that some of the ones that Jeremy mentioned. And if we want to look at the live app, so if Jeremy wants to go in and add a remedy, he goes on the web side. And if he wants to search for anything, he can go to the master list, and he can add filters. So you could say, show me all of the remedies in the whole thing that show up as a 4. Show me all the remedies or show me all the rubrics that, Abel Moscus is in, or that Calc is in. So there's all kinds of different ways that we can manipulate it. We don't have, I don't know how much time is spent doing that, but we have the capability of doing it. At this point, this is not a public thing. But when you have it all in a tool in this way, it does mean that there's a lot of different ways that it can be viewed, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, that is amazing, Kelly. Thank you. So show us the new rubrics that we work in progress. Let's see that. I want to see if I missed any. And
doesn't like that. Let's see.
Network error. We've got okay. All right. No, here we are. Okay, so there you are, aliens and stars, you see. So because we've already done, for instance, Polaris and put it in, but we try to put it in the new rubrics. Polaris is a North Star, anything that has any aliens and star, weird stuff. For instance, melatonium or Aquilaria, or Populus, etc. There's Fax Celestis Aliandi, which in the complete is called Meteor, which is the Meteor, the Mexican Meteor. Anyway, that's it. So back to me now. So Kelly, thank you so much, because without Kelly, Rafi and I would be totally lost. I have to say that. And she does amazing work putting that database together and handling it for us. So please, if you want to volunteer checking remedies, do that. And I will finish by saying, I'm really happy with where that's going, really happy that I did it. It's not fun going through one remedy at a time for me, but in the end result is worth it. Meanwhile, my commercial corner, I will just say to you that, if you like what I do, you've got all these courses online that you can join in on. The latest one was the 7R, which was a huge success. People loved it. I loved it too, because I could rant away about anything I want. The epidemic course, which is a long course, 40 hours of videos on how to treat epidemics. And I have cases and philosophy, and there's a couple of free courses here as well. That's it. And also, don't forget, I'm speaking to you from Tanzania, Africa today. We're running our clinics here. We have 19 mobile clinics that run, over a cycle of a month. You can come and visit us. And of course, we welcome donations, because all our work is for free. These are our main trained homeopaths in Tanzania, the best dressed homeopaths in the world, and also the smartest. And this is, for instance, in a deaf children clinic, the most silent clinic in the world, where you just observe, but you don't hear anything. Okay, that is it. Thank you for joining me. Thank you so much, everybody. And I will see you again in the near future somewhere. Thank you, Luke and Marco.
Thank you,
Kelly,
Jeremy.
and Rafi.
Thank you very much. It was a wonderful presentation, and we hope to have you back again soon.
Oh, did I forget to share the screen again?
Don't worry.
Luke?
You did, yeah.
Don't worry. I've got to share it one moment. My God, what's happening to me today? Okay, these are the courses available on Dynamis, and this is us in Africa. So here, that's us in Africa, which is very important. And don't let me forget these things. And that's it. And that is me saying bye-bye and thank you.
Bye-bye.
Okay.